Row 18, plot 20. Row 18, plot 20.
All right. So, Hillwalkers. It's a 2022 film written and directed by Tom Cosgrove. And it was filmed in the Dublin, um, Ireland mountains. Beautiful scenery. And I don't know, something about horror movies filmed in Ireland. I don't know. I love them. And I knew right away I was going to like this. I watched the trailer and I just knew I was going to enjoy the movie. Cast is great. Um, our main character, Miriam, um, just beat cancer, just survived cancer. And her husband and two other young ladies, um, close friends of hers, is it Susan and, oh gosh, Lisa. Her husband is Ben, and they are going to hike to raise money for cancer. And they are very unfamiliar with the territory, but they are going because they are going to raise money for cancer and to celebrate, her regaining her strength, her life, her career, everything that she had going on, and she now wants to be a mom. Unfortunately, her husband Ben is not able to do so, so they have been talking and discussing other options. So while they're beginning this journey in the mountains, they are not paired off with husband and wife. So her friend is talking and with Ben, and he has disclosed, the option that they were discussing as far as using a sperm donor and how he felt about it and different things like that. Um, so as they are proceeding, they are warned, to be careful because it had rained a lot and it caused everything to be swampy. Um, so they're all walking, and as they're walking, they turn around and Ben is no longer there. Um, so they're looking for Ben and they're calling his name, and then someone, eventually looks over, and poor Ben, he fell over into what they were calling the bog, um, almost like where the ground gets so wet that it can pull you in like quicksand. So he was taking a selfie. He slipped over, and a big chunk of a tree branch was in his leg. So they managed to get him up, and they needed to get help. But they were basically by this time really in the middle of nowhere. And the young lady who was more familiar said that she volunteered herself, to go back to get help, go back towards the car where they came from, as she was the most experienced with the area. Everyone else, was going to wait. They got up to an area where it said no trespassing, um, and were advised, pretty much in that area when they see that sign, it was for a reason. So they said they were going to sit, they were going to wait. But as time went by, Ben started not feeling so well. They needed to get him some help. Um, and a truck comes by with three gentlemen, or two actually in there. And so the guy in the group, I can't think of his name, but he went back, uh, Stevie, he went back or went over to the truck to speak to the gentleman in the car to explain their situation and why they were on their property. And so they welcomed them in very, suspiciously welcomed them in to give them a ride, looked them over and seen that, Ben was really hurt. And so they get in, and someone else just comes out of the woods out of nowhere, you know. weirdly, oddly, and they all get into this truck. And like I say, the scenery is beautiful in this movie. Once they get to their home, they're welcomed in, they're questioned, and the one young lady has a camera. She had been filming. Um, and to back up a little bit, while they were out there, Miriam was using binoculars and she saw someone, but really wasn't sure, of what she saw. Um, so she didn't mention it. She really just went on about it. And now here this guy comes, you know, and she doesn't know if that's who she saw, or if she saw anything at all. But they also came across some deer that had been killed, but not in a fashion, that someone was just hunting. It looked rather sacrificial. So it really bothered her. She took pictures of it. She wanted to report this. Um, and the entire time that they were out in the mountains, they were being watched and had no idea. So now they're in the home and they're offered tea or coffee or something warm to drink. And as they're drinking this, they're having conversation. And like you say, a character can go from zero, to 100, in moments. And as they were just as nice as they were being to them, expressing their concern, and actually acting as if they were going to get help or had called for help, for Ben, they had actually given them a little extra in their tea or whatever they were drinking. And to Ben and his wife, or to the other gentleman and Miriam, Ben's wife. Um, and now they have passed out. And the young lady who had the camera didn't drink anything. And this poor lady is just she's just frightened for her life because she's now thinking, like what is going to happen to me? She's watched her friends be poisoned. She knows that her other friend is going to get help, but at this moment she really doesn't know. She's feeling hopeless. She doesn't know what to do. So now everyone has been tied up. Um, and this young lady now that is looking for help is now being tracked. Um, but what these gentlemen weren't counting on is the fight that Miriam fought for her life when she was battling cancer. She was prepared to fight as well. And she also had a career where she was some sort of negotiator of contracts or something. So she was ready to take all of that and try to negotiate with these gentlemen, the best she could. And to take you further into it, and I don't want to give a spoiler, but I do want you to watch it. So they get to a point where the two women are left alone with the one gentleman, the youngest one, the smallest one, the one that looks the least experienced with what they're doing in this mountain. He's usually the guy that they tell everything to do. And he's under the influence of some sorts of under something. So that also, weakens his senses and his awareness of what these ladies are planning or plotting to do to escape. And they eventually subdue him, and they're walking him with a leash into these mountains because they want him to lead them to where they need to be. Um, Unbeknownst to them, their friend that was going to get help has also managed to walk into, the traps of these gentlemen, but they weren't prepared for her either. This young lady had her backpack packed, um, because they were getting ready to be hiking. So she had several things in this backpack, which you don't find out until that moment in the scene where she's shot and he comes over to her And this is all at the same time that her other two friends are walking this guy. So they're both in this bog, walking in different directions, um, with their captors, trying to escape, but they don't know if each other is safe. They don't know this is going on. When he walks over to her, to see if she's dead, he wanted he was getting ready to capture her, and drag her to wherever it was, back to the house. And when he first touched her book bag, there was a bullet hole in it. So I'm sitting there like, oh my God, she didn't make it. What's going to go on? My gosh. So now he turns her over, and the look on his face, they pan to him and then pan to her, and she was not dead. She had a actual cast iron frying pan and a lot of other things that were of metal in her backpack. So that all kept her from being shot. She wasn't hurt at all. She had her own bulletproof backpack she created, and she got loose. She got away, and she eventually ran into her friends, and they eventually, um, were able to get away from these gentlemen. Just the two ladies. The other lady, as she was walking, they were being, watched, like I said, and she was taken out, I guess, for a nicer word. Not spoiling too much, but those two ladies together, um, were prepared for the fight, because they had come through that fight for her life when she was fighting for cancer. Um, and they were discussing this in the very beginning. So you'll see how it all, her strength, how everything just came from that moment in her life where she almost lost her life to an illness, and here it was happening to her again in a different situation, where she physically had to fight for her life. But the cast, Miriam is I cannot pronounce her name for the life of me, Jim, but she is an awesome actress. I've seen her in other things before, as well as Ben. He is Shane Connolly, and he's an awesome guy. He looks very familiar, from a lot of things, as well as Mark Agar, who plays Stevie. He's a really good actor. Um, and the gentleman that plays, Ray, Ian O'Sullivan, is also another good actor. It's something that you don't want to miss. I'd say Hillwalkers. I would give it 5 out of the 5 stars. I definitely will. It's something that you don't want to miss. You want to get somewhere, you want to get quiet, get your popcorn, and put Hillwalkers on. And I promise you, it's a good watch. And for Hobbs, there are definitely a couple good scenes that you will enjoy as well. I definitely think so. It's
So have your dream. Go on and sing your song. There's nothing wrong with singing out of tune. If people laugh and say your dream can never be, just think of me. So have your dream. Go on and sing your song. There's nothing wrong with singing out of tune. If people laugh and say your dream can never be, just think of